Hey people, it's Michael from the Kids Library and welcome to another 3D printing class. So today I'm going to switch it up a bit. Now, usually I go in Tinkercad, I show you how to make some thingamabob for about 10 minutes, but to be honest, that can be a little long and boring for both you and me. And I realized that I never talked about the 3D printers themselves too much. So I'm just going to show you the ones that we have at the library and how they work, and some other cool types of 3D printers that you probably haven't seen. So the printers that we own print with plastic. It uses this fun thing called fused filament fabrication, and boy, that is a fun phrase. What it does is it heats up plastic, and then this thing called the extruder squeezes it out onto a mat, and then once that little piece of plastic cools, the printer adds more plastic on top. And then it keeps doing that until it builds something. And so the plastic printers are pretty inexpensive compared to some of the other kinds, like the metal ones. They can make all sorts of plastic pieces. I've made some for board games. They can make action figures, scale models, jewelry, and other stuff too. So like I said, ours use plastic like most, but there are a ton of other kinds of 3D printers. There are some that can print metal, like this gear for machinery. Some can print glass. There are a few that can 3D print human tissue, and in the future, they might actually be able to 3D print organs with human cells. And there are many that can print all kinds of food, including chocolate. And some of the biggest things I've ever seen were 3D printers that can print houses with materials like concrete. All right, I'm gonna make a quick detour here. Now for me, the coolest thing about 3D printers is that it can make any shape you want pretty quickly. But it wasn't always that way, so quick history lesson. Since the beginning of time, whenever people wanted to make things with stuff, they had to do it like one of two ways. First, you could take a block of stuff like this big red box of plastic. If I want to get this triangle, I have to take like a hammer and a chisel and I have to hammer that triangle out, and that would take a long time. Or I could melt that plastic down and then pour it into this thing called a mold. But that mold also takes a long time to make, and then you get the triangle. Both of these really aren't fun. They're a lot of effort, and if you only want to make one tiny little thing, why bother going through all of this? But that's the great thing about 3D printers. Like for this Baby Yoda 3D print, I don't have to chisel it out of something. I don't have to make a mold for it, which is really expensive and time consuming. I could just make it. I can just make it with the 3D printer, and I don't have to worry about making the shape for it or anything. The computer handles that. So metal printers are my favorite. The prints you make with the metal 3D printers are very hard to break. Unfortunately, they're very expensive to do, but they can make parts of car and jet engines, and in the future, they could even make the whole car engine or the whole jet engine. You can also make things like custom pipes, little tools, even dentures, actually.
Probably the most interesting kind of 3D printers are the ones that can print human tissue. I didn't know that much about these beforehand, but from looking it up, it's very new, it's experimental, and of course very expensive to do all this research. It can build tissue using materials that like bio-ink that kind of mimic our own body's own tissues, like our skin and stuff. And right now they can't grow full human organs, but there is a lot of research going towards that. And if they do manage to do that, that would be incredible, because there's like 100,000 or so Americans right now that are in line for organ transplants. And this would be the only way to really make organs. But right now what they're doing is they're making smaller organs to try and test that out. They have this small heart, and they can use those for testing medications and stuff like that, so that they don't have to test it on a person, which is also amazing. This is just what people, think it would look like when they can grow full organs. This is an actual bioprinter. I have no idea what half of the stuff on there does. It looks real complicated. But the two things they're able to do right now are grow ears, also a small organ, and then smaller hearts and other organs like that. And who could forget the food 3D printers? You can print with chocolate. You can do frosting. It's kind of like toaster strudel, really. You can do cheese, mashed potatoes, purees, all these kinds of soft and meltable foods, pastes, powders. You can make amazing complex baking art like you see on like all those shows on Food Network. Like the pros, you can make softer and nicer food for the elderly. I saw an article about using different like, purees and softer foods to make, actual nice food for the elderly who have trouble chewing. And you can even use dry ingredients like, say, vitamin powders to make someone a custom vitamin. And now look out, here comes the behemoth. The House 3D printers. These are actually gigantic machines that can print entire houses. And so these guys are mainly going to use concrete as the building material. It's kind of similar to plastic, actually, because the concrete's squeezed out, like here, and it hardens over time. It takes a while longer than the plastic, but it still does. And some of them are these simple concrete houses, and some of them are these complex buildings that can even have multiple stories. The printers for these, you can see on the side here, for multi-story buildings, they're going to be probably as tall as the library, honestly. And the nice thing about these is that they are pretty cheap compared to normal houses. They can cost as much as $5,000 or $10,000 per house, and depending on the location, they can help solve chronic homelessness here and in other countries. I saw something about houses like these in a project in Texas, I believe. Not to mention the burden on the environment is a lot less. It takes way less time, energy, and waste to make these rather than like a conventional house. And yeah, trust me, there's a bunch more types that I didn't have time to talk about. Like, there's glass, there's wax, even resin. Somehow there's a wood filament you can use. How does that work? I don't know, but apparently it does, and that's cool. Now, normally I would say come to the Makery and check it out for more info, but they are closed, so I'm going to put some links in the description if you want to read just some interesting 3D printing stuff I found doing this video. And if you want to submit any 3D prints, you can still do that if you go on our website. If you hover over the Create bar, and then under Makery, just click About the Makery, and then you could submit it with this 3D print request form. If you want to look at some tutorials for designing 3D prints, you can look at the past 3D printing classes I put up on this channel. So if you go to, I think, playlists and then EPL Kids here, you'll be able to find them. So I hope y'all learned something fun today. I certainly did making this video. I wish you a pleasant rest of your day, and I will see you later.